Motty here for Scotty and Motty, and this is the return of the smoking shed. Now, if you don't know what the smoking shed was, or will be, well, basically, my good friend, Mr. David Scott, came up with the idea about probably 18 months ago now, after Mick Hucknall did some bizarre tweeting. Scotty was asking, what are you smoking? So he went down to his shed and he did a little feature called The Smoking Shed where he spoke about Mick Hucknall and asked him, what are you smoking? Because he was coming out with some reet nonsense. Now, at the time, Mick Hucknall tweeted, the top 5 coolest cultures on the planet Earth are 1, African Americans. They invented cool. 2, working class British musicians. 3, a close third, Jamaicans. 4th, Jewish Americans. 5th, flamenco gypsies. Utter nonsense. What you on about? What are you smoking? So we thought we'd bring it back. So I thought, who qualifies for the smoking shed? Who can we put in this smoking shed? Because there's lots of people chatting a lot of nonsense and doing a lot of nonsensical things right now, both on this side of the water and over in America. But I'm going to go with the Republican Party. Now, you're going to ask, what are you on about, Jay? Why the Republican Party? 2 words, Herschel Walker. If you don't know who Herschel Walker is, you've not been following me on Twitter because I tweet a lot about this guy. Now, the Senate race in Georgia between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock could be pivotal in how the Senate plays out in the next election. It could give the balance of power to the Republicans. And in my opinion, Herschel Walker, even by Republican standards, if you don't like the Republican Party, he's the worst candidate ever. This is a guy who was put forward by Donald Trump because basically he was good at football. He was a college football star about 30 years ago. And I'm not being disrespectful here. It's pretty well established. He took a lot of knocks to the head. He had a lot of concussions and he's had a lot of issues going on with him. And he's arguably the worst candidate in history. And it's come to light so many issues that he's been sticking up for. He's actually a massive hypocrite. Now, since he's announced his candidacy for the Republican Party, and he won the primary. He is their Republican candidate. Don't forget, he beat other Republican candidates basically on the sort of the notoriety of his name, the fact that people knew who he was famous, he was well liked in Georgia, where he was a college football star. He didn't take part in any debates in the primaries, and there's a reason for that, because obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about. He comes out with some reet nonsense. Now, he's been very anti-abortion, as a lot of the GOP are. Okay, not going to get into that. If you're anti-abortion, that's up to you. We know that's a big sort of talking point in America at the minute, and we know a lot of the Republicans are backing this anti-abortion campaign and even talking about a nationwide ban on abortions. However, despite the fact that he's been anti-abortion, it now transpires he paid for an abortion of someone he impregnated. The Daily Beast came out of a story where they said they had the receipts that he'd paid for an abortion and sent a card to the woman who aborted his child. He said at the time, and this was on Tuesday, he's going to sue them for defamation the very next day. Well, it's now Friday and he hasn't. And the reason he hasn't is because it looks like it's true. Now, this isn't the only time Herschel Walker has found himself with a bit of egg on his face during this campaign. He's been a bit of a disaster for the Republican Party. After the school shootings that we saw, the unfortunate school shootings in Robb Elementary School, he was asked about those. He was asked about them on telly and, what we should do about gun control. How do you address these things? Here's what he said. He said, Cain killed Abel, and that's the problem we have. And I say, what we need to do is looking at how we stop those things. He said, you need a department that can look at young men, that's looking at women, that's looking at social media. What the fuck does that mean? It's meaningless. And these are the sort of things he does and the sort of things he comes out with. He was asked the other day about what the Lieutenant Governor had said, and he didn't even know who the Lieutenant Governor was of the state that he's trying to run for. He's just a walking disaster class as a candidate. And he's going up against a very, very good candidate in Raphael Warnock. Raphael Warnock, who is actually a pastor. And now the Republicans are trying to say, hang on a minute, the left, they're coming for Herschel Walker because he's a man of God. He's a religious man. He's made mistakes and they're coming for him. He's up against an actual reverend, and he's someone who's anti-abortion and who's paid for abortions. He's also someone who spoke about absent fathers, and it turns out he's got kids scattered around the country that he didn't even admit to having. The guy's a massive hypocrite, and his own son's even turned against him now. Christian Walker, who, in my opinion, isn't a particularly nice person. He's a right-wing conservative. He's someone who's spoken out against Black Lives Matter. He's spoken out against gay pride. he can be a bit of a nasty piece of work, in my opinion, Christian Walker, but that's not detracting from the fact that he's had a tough childhood, according to himself anyway, with having Herschel Walker as a dad. And he's been very critical of his dad. He's come out now and said that he knew this would all come out. He knew that all these lies and these sort of hypocrisies would come out when his dad ran for Senate, but he did it anyway, and that he was someone that mistreated both Christian Walker and his mum. And when you look at what is going on in America, when you look at the division and when you look at the hypocrisy, even by those standards, Herschel Walker, he is just a quite bizarre candidate. When he was asked about the environment, he was asked about clean air. And he said the problem with clean air is, in America, you know, China have got all their bad air, and that's replacing all our good air. So when their bad air, our good air moves out, their bad air has to go somewhere. Again, what you on about? It doesn't mean anything. Now, undoubtedly, not surprisingly, Raphael Warnock has been dying for a debate with Herschel Walker, because you know if he has a debate with Herschel Walker, he is going to wipe the floor with him. Apparently, there is going to be a debate very soon between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. I would be amazed if the Republicans let Herschel Walker debate Raphael Warnock, because it'll be an absolute embarrassment, even more than the embarrassment we've seen so far from the Herschel Walker campaign. And I have to say that I'm no big fan of the Republicans and their candidates, but even by their standards, this is one where I have to ask the Republican Party, what have you been smoking putting Herschel Walker forward as your candidate? This is just going to end in tears, and it'll end in even worse tears if he wins, because the scary thing is he's not even out of the race. Despite all these faux pas, despite all the hypocrisy, despite the fact even the people that are backing Herschel Walker are saying part of his issue is he's had a lot of concussions. They're saying he's not mentally stable. He's admitted he's got mental issues, and he's running for Senate in Georgia. They're saying all this. They're not even whispering it. They're saying it out loud. Despite all this, he's still in with a chance of getting the Senate. He's in with a chance of being the difference between a Republican-controlled Senate and a Democratic-controlled one. A hypocritical, mentally unwell former football star. It's just not the one, is it? You've got to ask the Republicans, you've got to ask the people of Georgia, what are you smoking letting this man get in near the Senate? He shouldn't be near it. He needs looking after. Seriously, it's just not on. Thanks for tuning in to Scotty and Motty. We are promising to bring you much more content in the coming weeks, months, and years. We've also now got a Patreon as well for extra content for people as well. So if you sign up for just £2 a month, you will get a video, an extra 45-minute video. You'll also get an article by me and Scotty each week as well. And you'll also get some other little bits and bobs. We're going to try and keep increasing our content on the main Scotty and Motty channel. But if you join the Patreon for £2 a month, you'll get extra content. If you don't, you're still going to get your live videos every Monday. Don't worry about that. You're going to get things like the Smoking Shed as well. But if you sign up for Patreon, you get extra videos and some articles. We're going to start writing more articles as well. So check out the link in the description and in the pinned comment as well, so you can see how to join our Patreon for just £2 a month. I know times are hard. Hopefully, though, you can afford it.